So I am back live again. Hopefully this is working across all the channels. I'll just check to make sure it is, and then we'll dive in. Today we're going to talk about why you don't have a marketing problem. You really don't have a marketing problem. And weirdly, I've seen this come and happen a lot. And it is a big thing. People tinkering with marketing, thinking that's the issue they've got in their business. That's why they're not getting clients. And it has absolutely zero to do with marketing. So we're going to talk about this morning. Wherever you're joining from, be great to see you. Let me know in the chat where you are. And then we'll dig into this. But I've seen this problem show up so many times in different businesses and with different clients. And there's kind of like a round and round in circle situation that people go in where they try a marketing tactic, it doesn't work, so they try another tactic, and they're kind of bouncing along the bottom. So they're kind of, it's not that they're not getting any results, but it's slow and it's difficult and it feels like pulling teeth. In all the years I've been doing what I do, and I've been doing this stuff for scarily, nearly 20 years, properly, I have seen that the majority of times when people say to me, Dean, I'm struggling to get clients, it has nothing to do with the kind of going on LinkedIn or going on Instagram or SEO or whatever. It's usually nothing to do with that. It comes down to actually a couple of bigger issues. And maybe you'll see these issues today. And maybe you'll go, maybe that's me, because I see it a lot. So number one, the biggest thing that I see people doing is FOMO. And, if you scroll any social media, you will see people saying, this is dead, that's dead, I've just made $1 million, I'm rich, why are you not? And what happens is it creates this fear of missing out. And I can remember working with a client, and we didn't end up working together fully because I couldn't get him to commit to a process. And what he was doing is he was spending so much time on one project, marketing plan, and then another marketing plan and another marketing plan. And he had about 5 or 6 different marketing plans going round at any given time. And so what he was doing then was going, right, I don't have the bandwidth to devote to any of them. And so he was pulled so thin on YouTube, blogging, his client work, his LinkedIn. And I'm like, you need to stop something here, right? This is impossible. How are you supposed to do well at YouTube and LinkedIn and deliver client work in limited time constraints? But it was almost like I'm hedging my bets mindset. If I do all of these things, something's got to work. And this is a common thing that I see people doing. Maybe not all at once, but they pick something, start something, and then find it a bit difficult and move to the next thing. And then find it a bit difficult and move to the next thing, find it a bit difficult and move to the next thing. If something isn't working that works for lots of other people, so LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, and I had to come to this realization myself. If something isn't working for you, but it seems to be working for lots of other people, ordinary people, there's something that you're doing that isn't right. Now, that's a no-brainer. It does not mean you should abandon it. You need to find out what's causing the issue. What's stopping you from getting success? Moving to another thing, another tactic, another guru strategy will not solve the underlying problem. And atypically, the underlying problem is usually 2 things. Number one, you don't understand your buyer persona well enough. Yeah, I know this is tough love this morning, but it's true. I've seen this many, many times of I don't understand my buyer persona. And it shows up with a content mismatch. It shows up with webinar titles. It shows up with outreach messaging. It just misses the mark. And so what happens is that lack of understanding, lack of clarity, for want of a word, about who your buyer persona is, filters down into your messaging, filters down into everything you do. And so the plan you made on LinkedIn, the plan you made on Instagram, the plan you made on TikTok was perfectly sound, but upstream, that clarity or lack of has infected your plan. And so even if you you ditch LinkedIn or ditch Instagram and go to TikTok, if you still don't have that clarity, it will filter down. That poison from the fruit of the poison tree will fall down into the actual process that you're following. And I see this a lot, and people don't see it because, of course, if you saw that there was a disconnect, you would fix it. But most people don't see it, and I can tell you why. It's primarily because you don't see a disconnect because we're internally validating our own message. Does it feel right to me? Does this sound like what it is? We also lose sight of the problem we're solving. You know, I have a worksheet I give to people, and there's a box in it that's about this big. It's only a tiny box. And I ask people when they want to work with me, what problem do you solve? And it's only a tiny box, right? And it's actually a test. That box is actually a test. And most people who fill that in cannot answer that question. They will tell me what they do. They will tell me about the external situation around that coach, but they won't tell me what is the problem they're solving. They make it more complicated. So like for me, right? What problem do you solve? People can't get clients on LinkedIn. It takes them too much time. They're chasing lots of tactics and they're still not getting clients. That's the problem I solve, right? If you cannot understand the problem you're solving, you can't get under the skin of your buyer. If you can't get under the skin of your buyer, you can't think like them. You can't understand the world as they see it. You can't see what's going on around in their day-to-day world, what it feels like, what it looks like. And so what happens is we create this disconnect. We've got the disconnect. So whatever tactics or plan we plug in, it fails because there's a massive disconnect between what people are feeling, your buyer persona's feeling, and what you're saying. And at the end of the day, what we do is that disconnect infects everything. But it goes a little further than that, because if you don't have that clarity on your buyer persona, if you don't understand the world as they see it, you can't articulate the problem as they see it. It's their problem after all. You're solving a problem they have. So you have to understand the problem from their perspective. We then approach it with very logical arguments. Yeah, oh, I'm a mindset coach. Nobody wants a mindset coach. Nobody. Yeah, there is nobody on earth who's going, do you know what? What we need right now, what I need right now is a mindset coach. No, I would argue, for an example, coaching is a last resort. Doing anything new for most people is a last resort. And you have to frame your solution to the problem is coaching, not I'm a coach and you should be my client. Nobody buys coaching. They buy the solution coaching gives them, the solution to their problem. And so all of that starts to stack up. It stacks up with I'm buying lots of tactics and changing things, right? If you want a really kick-ass strategy that's going to work in your business, let's just be real for a moment. I know there's a lot of bullshit on the internet, right? There are short-term wins you can get, but ultimately, for any strategy to really work and build a business, you need to commit to something for at least 18 months. You do not feel the full benefit of a strategy working for you for until 18 months. That's when the real benefits kick in. So you need an 18-month plan. Right, number one, 18 months. What problem am I solving? And then how do I get under the skin of the audience of the people who need that? That's really so important. Then choose the tactics and strategy that's going to help you get there. I'd love to say my way is the only way, but that wouldn't be grown up and that would be immature. There are a million different ways you can do it, right? But if you keep buying different ways, course after course after course after course, right? If you're a course whore, you're not going to get anywhere. Learning can be avoidance. And some of you might be going, yeah, but I'm not a marketer, Dean. I'm not a marketer. You don't have to be a marketer. You need a plan of how you're going to convey your value. So if you're feeling a bit uncomfortable about self-promotion, that's okay. You don't have to be aggressive self-promoter. You don't have to talk and brag about your success despite all the stuff you see on social media. You don't have to do that. But you do have to have some confidence and clarity in what problem am I solving so that I can replace the kind of salesy tactics with authority tactics. And authority comes from people seeing you understand them, people seeing you understand their problem, and people seeing you have a deep understanding of the solution. And you've got to communicate that across your profile through mechanisms. But if you don't want to be salesy, if you don't want to play a volume game, if you don't want to have to, go as broad as you possibly can so that people love your motivational quotes and hopefully, fingers crossed, somebody will buy something, you've got to go in on authority, which means people respect, trust, and look up to people who understand their situation, people who reframe their thinking. But you won't get there and you won't solve that problem until you figure out what the hell is the problem I'm solving. What is the problem I'm solving? And I challenge you, right? Just being grumpy on a Monday morning, write down the problem you're solving for people right now and see if you can say it in less than 10 words with no jargon and no other words that don't explain themselves. So in other words, people want coaching to solve their mindset. No, they don't. They really don't. Nobody wants coaching, right? People want the benefits that coaching brings, which solves a problem they've got right now. Yeah, so you've got to really dig deep on this because otherwise you will go round in circles and you'll think, then it'll eventually will reach a point where you either start questioning your own abilities and you start going, what's wrong with me? Why do people not want to work with me? Is there something wrong with what I'm doing? And then you pivot to different industries. The amount of people I've seen who were in one industry and really weren't committed to it. And then when they started to kind of not understand their buyer persona, the tactics failed, they'd just jump to something else, jump to a different industry, different altogether. And it's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Right? If jumping around and chopping and changing literally would solve your problem, you would have solved it by now, because most people have tried 5, 6, 7, 10 different things before what they're doing right now. You need to stop chopping and changing and really deeply understand the problem that your ideal customer has got, really deeply. Not just like, oh, they doubt themselves. How do they doubt themselves? What does that mean for them? How is that impacting their home life? How is it impacting the way they think, they sleep, they breathe, they do their work? What are the other knock-on situations that are happening because of it? What are the other issues that are coming up because of it? You've got to get deep into understanding the problem. There's a quote somewhere, I think it was Henry Ford said it, or Einstein maybe. It's if you understand the problem, you have 50% of the solution. There's a lot of people wandering on LinkedIn today who don't even understand the problem, right? And so they're 0% into providing the solution. If you understand the problem well enough, you have half the solution. And I just think I just see it so many times, and it's excruciating when I see it and I go, why are you doing this? And I want to rant about it, but I see people promoting coaching. I see people promoting their latest gadget. I see people, talking about what they do, right? And, it's nice to get some backstory and stuff like that. But where are you talking about the things that are going to help people change the way they see their problem? How are you helping people reframe their situation? These are all critical things, but it all stems from, the marketing. Why is the marketing so difficult? Why is that not working? Come further up. The problem is further up. If you're not getting clients consistently, the problem is not the tactics, right? That is like trying to kind of diagnose a problem by treating symptoms. Yeah. In other words, let's say your body's got, cancer or something, right? Right. And you go into the doctor's feeling with no energy, and the doctor gives you caffeine, right? It's the wrong answer. Yeah. So if you've got a major health issue and it's draining your energy and you're feeling exhausted all the time, you don't want the doctor to give you just an energy pickup. You want to know what's causing the lack of energy. And the same thing that you might be suffering with is the same thing that will fix it. In other words, if you're jumping from tactic to tactic, or you're not seeing the results on the ground, getting clients, getting inbound leads, getting all this stuff, the problem is not what you're doing at the coalface. The problem is further back. And atypically, that problem is I do not understand my customer, and I do not have that problem that I'm solving for them locked down. I'm trying to solve too many problems. I'm trying to solve too big a problem. Yeah, whatever that is. But it's usually I don't know what problem I'm solving, and I don't understand the audience well enough. That then infects the tactics. That's your problem. But as soon as you understand your customer better, as soon as you understand the problem that you're going to solve for them better, all of that starts to sort itself out. And I'd love people to get this, but unfortunately our human psychology is wired that we want easy wins. And when something's not working and it's hard, and we just jump to the next thing. It's just how we work. And you know this because some of you who are coaches, I've got a lot of coaches in my network, you've got clients who have gone and jumped around, moved around loads of different times, looking for different answers when you know the answer is something more significant. They want to treat the symptoms. They want a sticking plaster when you know that that's not going to fix their problem. That's not going to solve their issue. And that same thing applies in marketing. If it's not working at the front of the coalface, right, no amount of sticking plasters, new tactics, buying the next guru's thing will actually fix that. It's actually a deeper issue that you need to do some work on and understand who am I really going after and what problem am I solving? And I get it. There's lots of people we can go after. There's lots of people we can help. And I get it. There's lots of problems we can solve. Yeah. I could solve 1 million different problems for people. And it's difficult because I want to solve 1 million different problems for people. But I have to go, I'm just going to help people get clients. That's a big enough problem in itself because I have to deal with a ton of other issues that are not to do with LinkedIn. When somebody comes to me and they join the accelerator, I have to take them through this process of going, who are you selling to and what's the problem? And basically it's difficult because I have to tell them they can't move forward. They will get no success until they define that, right? And I help them and our team helps them, but I see it over and over and over and over again. And what happens is people spend a small fortune going round and round and round in circles when the real issue is, I haven't defined the problem and I don't know who my buyer persona is, or I don't understand them deeply enough. And for most people who've started their business, maybe they've been in a corporate career, or they've worked for somebody else, you've probably come out and started your business because you were really good at helping people with particular issues. And the reality is you've never had to market yourself or what you do directly. It's always been through a company you've done it, or through your department, or what have you. So what happens is you've never been exposed to the coalface of solving that problem. In other words, the reality of meeting complete strangers and having to persuade them or show them that you can help them. And so from your point of view, if you've had a lot of referrals coming out of your, corporate career or what have you, you've had easy wins. And I know that's probably, rubbing you up the wrong way, but referrals are brilliant. They're absolutely brilliant because you're getting warm people coming to you recommended, and actually somebody else has done some of the legwork to convince somebody else that you're worth the money. So somebody else has sold you for you, and that's brilliant. Referrals are awesome. But if you've had a lot of that, you've probably never been exposed to the harsh reality of what it's like to market to complete strangers. And that means you have to be more clear, more focused, more defined, and have a regimented plan, because you want clients like clockwork. And as you've probably noticed, referrals are fantastic, but you can't control when they come. So you need a system to actually bring you consistent clients, whether or not you get referrals. But if you've had referrals, and somebody will get upset with me, but I don't care because it's true. If you've had a lot of referrals, you've probably never had to operate in a competitive space. By that, I mean LinkedIn's noisy, Instagram's noisy. There's other people who do what you do. Yeah. When you've got referrals, you've got somebody doing the selling for you, somebody who they trust is basically vouching for you and saying you have to give these people some time, or you have to work with these people. So you have an advantage, massive advantage. When you come onto social, it's a level playing field. And so if you're not sharp in your message and what you offer, you will get lost. And I see this all the time, and I thought I'd talk about it today because hopefully somebody's watching me, somebody's listening to me and going, that's me. And if that is you, drop me a line. Let's have a conversation, because I can give you exercises to fix that, whether that be in the accelerator. We can have a chat, but I'll pin it down. But most people struggle to articulate the problem they're solving and understand their audience. And that then infects their messaging, and it infects their strategy. And then everything else downstream from those two things, the audience and the audience and the problem they're solving, basically everything is corrupted. And so you can have a brilliant marketing plan, but it's just missing the mark because you don't understand the problem and you don't deeply understand the buyer. Anyway, that's my little rant for Monday. Hopefully this has been beneficial. Let me know if it has. If I'm talking total twaddle, you can tell me in the comments too. But have a great week, and drop me a line. If this has been beneficial to you, drop me a line and let's have a chat.